Alright, so what we were doing last time was failover clustering for SQL Server, and we had nearly reached the final configurations there. So according to the diagram here, we first configured the networking portion of the failover cluster feature, and that failover cluster feature is the underlying feature here. And then we configured the storage. We went for software SAN configuration. That was Windows based software SAN, and that just provides shared disks over the network, so also called LUNs, logical unit numbers. And then we then install the FC, or failover clustering feature here, for both FC failover cluster. Then on top of that, and it did an evaluation as well. That was a test. It was the evaluation was evaluating all the configurations for the failover clustering, or the recommendations, the vendor best practices that were supposed to be done for failover clustering when you're configuring networking and when you're configuring storage. So after evaluation was done for failover clustering process between the two machines, then there was then we installed SQL Server on both, right? And so failover cluster was done on both. Then obviously, if you want the any application that you put on top of failover cluster, you want that to be highly available, so that application has to be on both machines. Or if you have like 10 machines instead of 2, or 20 machines or 30 machines, so it should be installed on all 30 machines. And once we installed SQL Server on both, then I also installed SSMS, or SQL Server Management Services, here on server 1. So I could just remotely connect to the SQL Server from server 1 to server 4, or to the SQL Server in server 5. So any one server at a given time, right? So this is our overall configurations that we were doing till now. So what we're expecting is that the machines should have the failover clustering configured. SQL Server should be there already in server 4 and 5, and that SSMS SQL Server Management Studio should be installed already in server 1. There was another diagram here in that previous one where I explained much more than this, or as we were creating the diagram, or we were creating the lab, odd numbers, even numbers, the quorum we talked about. Yeah. Okay, so that's more detailed one. I think, yeah, that was the last time there. That took some effort. So I'll just put that on the other screen somewhere so I could actually get it. Okay, just give me a sec, guys. I need to grab the other one and put it in front of you. Copy, and I'll grab this. Okay, so that's where we have more details available. Okay, so excuse me. So we're good with that. So .NET Frameworks, SQL Server, Internet, we create there. Failover clustering is there. Yes, done. Evaluation done. Failover cluster working fine. We failed over as well, switched over, and then SQL Server is also done on both machines. So I'm gonna just get back to this environment, and I'll check out or double check all the configurations there. Then we can go ahead with the failover configurations for SQL Server. And I'll just quickly grab the lab here. And okay, so I'll just go for resume. Okay, so I could start at the same time, but it's gonna then even slow further, so I'm just waiting for this machine to get unsuspended. While this is done, I'll just resume this one as well. Okay, so the second machine is also unsuspended, and the first machine, now first machine has a SSMS, and the other two machines are supposed to have the SQL Server. If I go to the second machine, which is the first SQL Server, where the first SQL Server installed, you can see in the roles that there's SQL Server and it is running. And if I go to the second, third machine, which is the second SQL Server, and here the failover cluster manager is not there, and I'll just go for, okay, which machine is that? So, oh, really? If I just check it out, so this is FailoverCluster here, and it's in dual, yeah, FailoverCluster, and I'll just refresh the whole thing. Really? Am I not seeing that, or is not there? Okay. For this is our second machine, and that is supposed to have a failover. Cluster. And so that's SQL. Okay, I'll just click here. Oh, seems like a totally new machine. Okay, I think I may have started a wrong SQL server. That is also D. I'll just go for the other one. And this seems to be a totally new machine. I'll just quickly put it down. Power off. Oh yeah, that's the one. Okay, so I'll just drag it in this area. Okay, so the third machine is also starting. That has a second SQL server, and I need to just see that the roles are there in place for me to test it. Okay, so that's the other machine, and if I this is the Failover Cluster Manager. If I go ahead and put the roles here, so yes, that also has SQL Server running. On the first SQL Server, that is actually on the second machine. So the Failover Cluster, if I click the nodes here, it sees that the node is actually down. Well, it just went up, so it's going to be doing some searching there. Or in fact, if I go inside the Failover Cluster here and do refreshing, so and go to server, no, so it's still detecting that the other node is not up. So I'll just go to the other node and tell that, hey, aren't you up? And it has not also detected that the first node is up. So it's just a matter of time before they should detect each other. And I'll just close this Failover clustering here, and I'll close this Failover clustering here, and when I just open it again, they should be able to detect each other. So Failover cluster, and I'll go for the other one. Okay, so it's open here. So once we completed it, we just froze that, and then I opened or unsuspended one of them, and it was looking for the other one for a bit while, and then it was not able to find that. So that's why it is just saying that, hey, where's the other node? So I'll still put it there, and it says that it's not. Well, I can right click on that node and say there's a pause, there's a ENROLL, and there is resume. I click the resume button, and it's saying that it's joining. Well, it is trying, and so cluster status is down because one of the nodes is down, it's saying. So well, it's in one go. Normally we should be testing this instead of keeping it shut down for long, so it does take a little time for them to really detect each other. So waiting for all snap-ins to complete. I'm just giving it time. While this is going on, I'll just close all the other nodes there. So well, the other node is again, now it detects that both are up. Okay, so I had to right click and just click the resume button here, and my suggestion is that you guys should be testing it at least once to make sure that you know how to configure failover clustering, because you will find that still in many companies there where the SQL server and file server, majority of the critical machines are still on top of failover clustering. So well, the second SQL server, it's I started the failover clustering feature, and it's still trying to load there. And while just thinking, we can just try to understand that what are the next steps now while the machines are still coming up. I'll just check the memory. Okay, it seems to be okay now. Hard disks are okay, CPU is okay. Okay, I'll just give it a little time, and there is no other choice for as well. Failover clustering is still trying to open. Now on the first one, I need to open the SSMS, because from there I need to go for connectivity. So I'll be explaining now that what have we done. Well, I've gone through the diagram and tried to give you an idea about what have we done, but what else needs to be done, that is what I'll be showing. So I'm also checking that if I have not started the wrong one here in terms of tools. So I have so many machines, and last time I was just trying to get those machines up and running real fast. So I think I had have mixed them up. So I'll try to get another machine up and running. That is also domain controller. I should have brought those machines together which were working together. So I'll just check here that if the SSMS is there, because we did download that SSMS. Oh, it's here. So I also started the wrong here. Sorry about that. So it is. Okay, so this is the one that is supposed to be up, and this is the one. So I'll just put the first one there, because authentication was supposed to be coming from here to the two machines, and it possibly could be looking for authentication here, the server 4, while server 5 says I see you. Server 5 says to server 4. If I go to the cluster, so it does show that server 5 is the current host here, and server 5 has the SQL server that is still showing that it is stopped. And if I right click and start the role, although this other failover cluster is still thinking and trying to start. So before I start the role, I'll just have to do a little shoot here. Otherwise, I'll give it a little more time by restarting, and we can start another smaller topic till it just gets up and running, and we could use our time to go for another topic. So SQL and download maps. I'm just checking all the services that are supposed to be automatic, are they running, and are those that are really supposed to be running here right now. So there's SQL eval showing there, and that SQL is not also started. Okay, so this means that I'll just give it a restart, this one, and check it out. So if the machines are started one after the other, they could take time to synchronize with each other as well. So while this server 4 based failover cluster is still restarting, and server 5 says I'm cool, I'm okay, and as far as the SQL here is concerned, it says no, I'm not okay. Okay, so there's a message there, all my clusters vanished. Vanished like vanished? Okay, it says, really? How's that possible? Try to restart. Hopefully those are the same machines, and try to restart. First restart always the the domain controller, and don't start the other servers. Once the domain controller is fully started, then start second and third. So that's how it's supposed to work. Now the other machine is again back up, and hopefully it's gonna work fine. The live demonstrations have this troubleshooting aspects there. So as far as the nodes are concerned, I did restart that, but the other failover cluster did not detect that it was restarted. Otherwise, normally it detects right away, and then simply creates that. It makes it red or green. So the services are starting here. I'll just right click here. Oh, Simmer. You also saw, okay, there's 8 GB, and I have NAT, but I disabled the NAT here. So I'll just give it a little time. Failover cluster is there, and I'll click it to open it after restarting all the services. What I'm expecting is that it would have refreshed all the services by now, and it would just try to. So when you suspend and unsuspend, services were frozen. Sometimes they do not, some of the services do not start, or their dependencies do not start while, so you had to just restart again to really check. So on the other failover cluster node, it just says, hey, I'm ready, and ready when you are. It's just giving the message to 4, and the 4 is still loading, and it still has to show that drop down menu here that I can expand. So it's trying to still start. While I have that on server 1, if I go, I have that SSMS. So the plan here is that we have configured the failover cluster here, and on this machine 4 and 5, all we need to do is, and we installed also instance of SQL Server called eval, right, or evaluation, or we could have named it anything, right? So what I intend to do is I need to connect from SSMS to whichever is the current active node here. So this is those machines that are taking part in the clustering, failover clustering, are called nodes, and or whichever has the failover cluster feature installed is called node. So this is the first one is obviously not a node. So suppose in the final quiz, if I say server 1, server 4, server 5 are all nodes, so obviously you would know what to do there. Okay, anyway, this SSMS or SQL Server Management Studio will be connecting to whichever is the active node, and that active node will be letting the SSMS connect to the SQL Server installed. Right now, I really need the two nodes to talk to each other. Both nodes should be green in terms of status, and both nodes should be saying that SQL Server is started, right? So because of the domain controller not available the first time, and the two nodes were started, and then so these could not synchronize with each other, so that's why it's just taking a little time to get the nodes up and running. So if I go to server 1 here, it just say that it's ready to connect, and let me know when to connect. So okay, server 1 says the SSMS says tell me where to connect. Now I'm gonna check that server 4, and it hasn't loaded anything yet, so I'll just try once more. Sometimes it just the services in the background needs to be given a push there. I'll try to give them that push now by going to services.msc and SQL Server browser. SQL Server is okay. Well, as far as the failover clustering features are concerned, I can. So those features are not showing here, but within the cluster, I could try to stop them and start them. So the SQL Server in the background is also not starting. I'm just gonna at least try and trigger this. So start the eval for SQL Server, the SQL instance, and it says process terminated. So this means that so I'm just gonna go for connect to cluster here, right? Because it did not automatically connect to the cluster right now. So I'll just try to tell it, hey, your cluster is, it does see a cluster name there, your first name cluster.sqldomain.local. So I'll check that and press OK. You're connecting to the cluster. Okay, so another thing I'll just try is restart guest here as well on 5. If that is also giving issues, then I will try to just configure the whole environment before the next class and show you, and we can right now go to other topics and cover them. I'll just give it a final restart here, and it was the active node. Time was done last class, so that's why I could not really finish the lab. There were lots of other things, but after this started the machines a bit faster. Okay, so Hamid shows an error here on WhatsApp, and I'll just put that. So GB cluster configuration refresh failed with the following error. The metadata failed to be retrieved from the server due to the following error. WinRM cannot process the request. The following error with error code. Kerberos authentication. So Kerberos authentication normally is the Active Directory authentication, and the username and password specified are invalid. Oh, okay. So maybe the username password is wrong actually. So Hamid, you can try again, because it's possible cause is this. You can try to log in again. I'm sure it's the correct password because you're logged in right now. It's just giving the cause, and I have restarted this as well and logged in from this. So I'll go to FailoverCluster here. They need to synchronize. Normally they automatically synchronize. Normally they do that, automatic synchronization. And I just started that again. It says SQL is okay. It says the nodes are okay. It still says everything okay. So the other FailoverCluster does not agree with that, but I'll just try to convince it once more that if it takes, oh, there you go. Now it shows that it has detected that cluster as well. And if I expand that, roles, oh, thank God, SQL Server is there. If I go to nodes, alright, so we're back now. Well, the mistake was that I started the wrong machine, so the SQL server cluster, the failover cluster first did not recognize that other machine and said that, okay, I don't have redundancy and I don't have no connection, and some of the services were not starting as well because the wrong domain controller was also starting. It needs to have authentication and authorization and name resolution services coming from the domain controller, which was not also available, so that's why it got confused. Failover clustering got confused with all this. And hey, where's my authentication, authorization, name resolution, where's my other node? So now everything is okay, guys, and it's on the both sides. It's saying, so what is the cluster, current cluster or active node right now? So if I click, I'm on the server 5 and it says, hey, 4 is the active. Does server 4 agrees with that? So if I go to the server 4 here and check it out, so yes, it's the active node. And the first screenshot would be the current active node in FC. So the first screenshot would be current active node in FC. Take a first screenshot here with your name in the background. Take a first screenshot. Current active node in FC. So that's our first screenshot now. I'll just take a sample screenshot here. Current active node in FC, and that is this current host server 4, right? I'll just put it in. Okay, so screenshot 1. So when you're earning 35 per hour, 45 per hour, 25 at the start per hour, I guess, so you will have to face these failover clustering issues as well. And if you have those powerful machines or try to get those in future, at least have that plan. So then try this and do repeat that lab multiple times at home as well. Very critical for your career. Okay, so screenshot 1 here, it's a current active node in FC, and I'll just put that there as well. Database equals screenshot 1 equals current active node in FC. Okay, so that's the first screenshot, and I'll just get back to this. This is the first screenshot where the server 4 is showing, right? Now once that is this is the whole screenshot area, and once that is taken, let's go ahead and the next steps are that I will just simply go to the diagram. We need to connect to the instance that is called ENROLL instance, and right now that current active node is server 4, current standby or passive node is server 5. So this is A and this is passive or / standby, right? Standby, same thing. So if this is standby, this is active node. So well, I just need to tell the SSMS that we need to connect to this instance. Now SSMS will try to ask the failover cluster that, hey failover cluster, wherever that instance is, just connect us. And failover cluster knows that which is the current active or passive node, right? Wherever is active, obviously it's gonna go there and automatically connect you there, right? So I'll just go back here. Also, one more thing is that on the other screen I have all the million more screenshots there, because obviously we don't configure that every day. So I'm just gonna go to this where it's just saying, hey, when are you gonna connect? So first of all, what do we need to put as a server name? There are actually 2 servers and both have SQL Server, and although we know that server 4 is having the that active node, it's the active node, but we need to put here the cluster name / the instance name, right? So what is the name of our cluster here? In my case, it is your first name cluster, so Amir cluster. if I go back here, so that's your first name cluster and backslash, what's the name of the instance? We should be confirming that too. If I go to the roles, does it show the name? Yes, it shows the name of the instance as eval, EVAL. If you go to the services here, it shows the name eval here as well. Otherwise, if I had kept the default name, that was MS SQL Server, right? So that's normally the default name. If I go to the configuration manager in SQL Server that you have already seen before as well, configuration manager is the area where you are supposed to go for SQL Server services related task. So here it also says eval. So this is the instance name. So these are the ways that we can confirm. So I'm just going to go for eval here. And this is the SQL admin and your first name SQL admin that we created always. So I'm just going to click the connect button, and if all goes well, then it should connect through the cluster to wherever the active machine is and the SQL instance of that active machine. So I'm just saying that go to the cluster in the environment and try to connect to the active machine. And if it does connect to the active machine there, then we can just try to go for. So first of all, it says cannot connect to your first name cluster eval. A network related or instance specific error occurred while establishing a connection to SQL Server. The server was not found or was not accessible. Verify that the instance name is correct and that. So that's a straightforward can I connect to this or not. So I'm just going to check the network connectivity right now. I have VMware 15, and I'll go to the basic network configuration on server 1. I have only one, Ethernet 0 is connected only, and that's the first thing. Second thing I'll go for is that NS lookup, and at least the correct IP should be there, and Control-C, Control-C. Now this NS lookup here seems to be not as configured as the best practice, so I'm just going to go for DNS here, this one, right? And then I'll just, either you can open DNS from here or you can open DNS from here as well, DNS manager. And I'm just going to create a reverse lookup zone. Forward lookup zone normally is configured for computer name resolution to IP address, and reverse lookup zone is configured for IP address to computer name resolution. So I'm going to right click here and go to new zone and go ahead and click next. Primary zone is okay, it's a read and write copy of the DNS server. The rest of the default configurations, other than that, it just needs the network range, which we already know what it is. Next, allow only secure dynamic updates. Yes, done, finish. So what I'm trying to do is that I'm just making sure that by name access is clearly configured properly, and SQL domain here has right now these machines. So what I want to make sure is that I have the pointer records of server 1, 4, 5, in fact 2, 3 as well, but right now my concern is 4, 5 should be there in the reverse lookup zone as well. Reverse lookup zone is totally empty. If I go to forward lookup zone and then SQL domain here, so these are the, so I'm just going to double click that and just click on each A record that, hey, create your copy in the reverse lookup zone as a pointer record. So apply, okay. I'll go for, okay, 2, it's already there, so I'll uncheck that, apply, and then check it, apply. Like it was checked, but the actual record was not there, so I'm going to uncheck, apply, and then check, apply. I'm just telling that, hey, reverse lookup zone should also have, in fact, these also have been checked, but I'll uncheck, apply, and then check and apply. So what I'm saying is, please create the reverse lookup zones here. Whenever you make a change here in DNS, always go to the domain name there and refresh a couple of million times. And once this is done, then we can go there to the reverse lookup zone, and yes, now it also shows all the records. So if I go to NS Lookup. We've done this exercise before as well. NS Lookup. So now it's okay. By name resolution is okay. And second thing is the IP. Because it's basic connectivity error, it shows that hey, I cannot find your server. So that could be possible because of the what went on there. So 10.0.0.1 is their heartbeat here, while the LAN is then 192.168.2.4. And here, if I go to the local server, so there it's saying multiple IPs, but here it's not saying. So I'll go for to the 205 here in 5 and 204 here in 4, and I'll just try to check that out by name. I should be pinging them. IP, I think I will be able to ping 004, and what are the names? 005. So can I ping by name? If I can directly ping by name, then I'm good. Yes, I can. And I'll go for the other one, 5. If I can ping by name, obviously I can ping by IP anyway. Then, so this means that name resolution is working fine. I'll go to the other servers and simply run those ipconfig flush DNS command there, so that name resolution would be confirmed. ipconfig. So in production environment, we have to do all this to make sure that our critical configurations are up and running. And although just flush DNS is okay, register DNS, I'm still gonna go for that, and here as well. So ipconfig /flush DNS and register. If it was done in one go, then I would not have faced troubleshooting here. But when we are doing it in multiple classes, so sometimes hiccups happen. Okay, so I think that, well, connectivity is there, and I will tell that to SSMS as well, that hey, we check the connectivity is okay. Now I'm just checking the spelling, Amir cluster, and if I go there, FailoverCluster, so it's EMER cluster. Okay, EMER cluster and eval. It's not supposed to be case sensitive. So other than that, it's a name resolution basically. But if it says that I can't still communicate with your SQL server there, then I'll just try to come back here and check my SQL server services. Are these open? Because those were not actually on at that time when I saw that. So SQL eval, if I refresh that, actually they're running. So SQL eval is running, SQL server agent is running, SQL full text is running. If I go to the other one and check it out there as well, the SQL services, okay, services.msc. This is just to check the status. Otherwise, configuration manager should be the one where you should be looking at the services. If I go to automatic and then go down to here they're not running. They're not needed actually. That's why they may not be running, because this is not the current active server. The current active one is this, right? So if I go back, it's still saying that no, I can't really access those. So what I can do is I'll just close this SSMS, because I had to fix some first that the FailoverClusters are really shown, connecting, or they're connecting with each other. Then I need to go. So this is my current active host, right? If I go to this, so what I can do is I can just try to right click and try to open it, right? So I'll try to open this SQL server here. and check that hey, can I actually open a SQL server if the SSMS is there, because the SQL Server services are working fine. Now I can connect directly with the services as well, so I'll just try one more time here, SSMS. When it opens, so I can just give this name, and I need to give the cluster name, but I can just give this name as well, and then start the services. Okay, so the name of that server, actual name, which I'm not supposed to connect this way, but just to check, is server 04, and with server 04, and over the network when I'm connecting, do I have to open browser service? Actually, it is already open, but I'm going to check that. So if I connect, tell that server 04, there is a SQL server there. And one more thing I can do is for just confirming everything is okay, that I can copy the SSMS from here to this server as well. So we could locally connect as well. So I'll just copy that outside here, and then okay, it's copied here. Then I'm just gonna drag it out to the other machine. Okay, so SSMS is on the desktop, and I need to copy it from here to inside this machine and install it here, just to check that can the SQL Server locally get opened or not. And while this is going to go on, the browser service is actually working and automatic, and yeah, everything seems to be in fact okay. I'm logged in from the correct credentials here. Okay, so I'll just quickly install this SSMS here just to check that locally are we opening or not, and all the services here seems to be okay. In fact, what I can do is in SQL Server Manager here, I can try to restart the actual SQL Server instance. Okay, it's restarted now, and if I tell that SSMS here that can you try again with okay, if I go browse for more, normally it's supposed to detect network servers from here. Over the network it's supposed to detect that. Normally it does that easily. Oh, in fact it was showing something there. I am just checking my firewalls. Anything can stop right now. So if I go there, so it does detect the ENROLL. Okay. Okay, we're back. That's good. So all I needed to do was just restart the SQL services itself. This means I don't need to actually install the SSMS locally here to check that SQL Server is working fine. I just needed to restart from within the configuration manager the SQL instance service. So I did that, and I'm remotely connected now. So I am connected from the SSMS to the current active node here, right? So what I can do is I can create a database here, because I just connected to an empty node, there's nothing configured here, right? So how about if I try to create a database, and that database should be created on top of the software SAN or LUNs. It should not be created on the local disk. The database should not be created on a local disk. It should be created on LUNs. Obviously, that's what the software SAN is for. And that software SAN, if you remember, this one disk, local disk, or shared disk over the network or LUN is actually mapped to this server, and same disk is mapped to this server as well, right? So what happens is that when you create a database through server 4, this database is accessible through server 5 as well. So that's the beauty of having this software SAN or SAN, right? There's a virtual SAN also, that's in VMware. You must have heard that in your virtualization class. So, well, that's also SAN, but its highly available storage is called SAN. So here, and now we're going to create a database. So we are connected. I'm connected from here to the active node, and I need to create a database there. Oh, okay, Amir says he's following the troubleshooting, and yeah, we're at the pretty much end of it. If it's a quick one, Amit, then yes. Otherwise, you can also check the video and do that. But if it's taking long for you, right? So, but try this, and that's very good that you're actually trying everything and step by step. I salute your dedication, and others, those who will be following later or are following later, because it's gonna be good for your career. Okay, so now what we are trying to do, if we have already understood that it is connected now, SSMS, right? Hamid, you have I hope you have created the those DNS records there. NS lookup is fine. Second thing is that your the server, wherever the SQL server is or the failover cluster is active, there open the configuration manager and then simply restart the instance. Instance should be all green here, and then we just restart the first one here like this, right? So hopefully that works, because that's all I did. And well, it's connected now to any one node, and whichever is the active node. I need to create a database, so I'm just gonna go there, and in the databases there is none actually, so I'm just gonna right click. The main thing to understand here is you can't connect it. Yeah, I had to restart actually, and then check it out. So I first check that failover clustering is totally green, and then ping to both by name from server 1 to server 4 and 5. If the pinging is good, then do NS lookup. If NS lookup is good, then restart the services. The 4 things that I did are these, but I had to step by step t-shoot everything. Okay, cool. So okay, that's very good. So guys, I'm just gonna create a new database. The main thing to understand here is that where are you creating this database on, right? So I have started to create a database on top of a failover cluster node, and I'll just put that your first name db01. In this environment, it's the db01. And where are you creating that? So if I go to the right side, it's not actually giving me C drive there. Normally it's always C drive, right? So but it is F drive here. Now that F drive is which one? So if I just click this to check it out, also okay, the path is this, right? So I'm just going to check the path by clicking the 4 dots here. So it shows there that it is MS SQL 13 evolve. So this evolve instance is there, and that is on F drive. And what is an F drive here? So if I go back to my failover cluster and server 4, there's a failover cluster here, right? and if I go to the storage of failover cluster and expand that storage and go to disks, it may or may not mention right now that, okay, yeah, it does. So you can see that if I click the cluster disk 2 and cluster disk 3, cluster disk 2 has the drive letter F assigned to it, cluster disk 3 has the drive letter E assigned to it. So yes, I am correctly on a online drive or the LUN. I'm creating a database on top of a LUN. Okay. You know what? I'm just putting my table up and I'm putting it in a standing position. I've been sorry. Okay, so it's the F drive here. The cluster disk 2 is F drive. So that's what I really wanted to know. And in the diagram, that's what I was discussing, that this database better be creating on is being created on the LUN. So yes, it is creating on LUN, and the LUN drive letter is F and E, and the third one is actually, or the first one is actually quorum, right? So in the final quiz, just try to make sure that this configuration is there. I don't want to create questions right now. Then okay. So anyway, so this is what we're doing, and I'm just going to go back here to disks. Sorry, this is the Failover cluster machine. I'm going to go to the where I'm connecting from, the first machine, and yes, as long as the path is concerned, yes, it is the one on top of which I'm creating a database. That's what I wanted to make sure. Okay, so if it is so that it is actually on a software SAN that I'm creating a database, then I'm gonna press OK here and let it be created. Yes, it is created there, and yep, it's a proper database. Okay, so Khalid says, so you are setting the database on top of one of the shared disks, not shared databases. Yes, shared disks. So yes, Khalid, it's shared disks that I'm creating. So these are not the local disk of the server 4 or server 5. These are the shared disks that are mapped to server 4 and server 5, right? So this is it. So there's another question here, and that is why you couldn't connect with Amir cluster, but you connected with GB cluster. Oh, hey, whoa, yes, all right. GB cluster, same as me. I connected with GB cluster. Actually, you know what? Did I not put their Amir cluster? So I must have given the name of the actual SQL cluster as GB cluster, and it changed. When I was putting the name Amir cluster, I was able to connect, and the name of GB cluster, where did it must have, when we were creating cluster, at that time we gave a name, and then when we were creating SQL server, then we gave a name as well, right? So oh, there you go. So client access name is this GB cluster. So in the beginning, we must have given that cluster name where we were configuring that, and I can see that the client access name actually is GB cluster, although when I tried to connect, it was this name, but at the start, anywhere else, a display name, I must have given GB cluster, right? So it just got that. So very good point to note, Hamid. Okay. But yes, we do give this name, and whatever the display name was, it just got that. Okay, guys, so here, now what we are trying to do, so the database is actually created on top of a software SAN. Okay, so what's the big deal with that? The big deal with that is that this database is on top of LUN, or logical unit number, that is attached to this node as well as this node. So the benefit is that if the active node crashes, the database should be available from the other node because it's on a shared disk that is also same exact shared disk with that same exact database is also connected to server 5. If server 4 is to crash, then the database should be still available from server 5, right? So that's the big deal here. If you create it on, if the database was created on the local disk here, obviously it would have taken down when the crash happens. Then we can't connect to that database. But now what we can see is that in fact I'm gonna crash this server 4 now, and what we're expecting is that this database is still up and running, and we're not disconnected from this database, or we should be able to access even if the server 4 node goes down, because it's going to be then accessible or should be accessible from server 5 node now, right? So that's the big deal with that, even you lose one full fledged server, that the service on top of it is still available. The service on top of it is still available. So that's something that need to be understood, and let's do it. So I'm gonna just check out my own screenshots there, because I had to vigorously test that, and those screenshots are actually on the other screen, and pretty much what needs to be done is that if you create a database, so what we're going to do is I'm going to crash the active node, and current active node is server 4. I'm going to crash that active node. What I'm expecting is that I want to create another database, or I would still want to access the ENROLL instance and the database here, and I want to create a second database as well after the crash, right? So I just want to keep on working even though one of the nodes just crashed, right? And obviously we need to crash the active node. If we crash the passive node, that really doesn't matter. We will be still connected because we are connected to the active node. Whichever is active, we are connected to that right now. So if I go back here, I'll check one more time which is the active right now. I'm going to go to the FailoverCluster here, and I'll click that name, and yes, server 4 is still the active one. Does server 5 agree with that? So I'll go with server 5 here and check it out. Yes, it's server 4 that is the active node. Current host server is, and both servers say yes, I agree, active node is server 4. So this is the node I need to crash now, because we are actually connected from this node, from here, server 1. This connection is done on the current active node, right? So I want to actually now crash this. So I'm just going to go to server 4 here and right click here and power, and there's a power off. So power off is obviously not the recommended way to turn off any machine. It's like you're pulling the cable, and so I'm just gonna go for power off here, and I expect the database still to be up because we did install SQL Server here and there as well on the second machine. So if I go to power and power off, so it's gone. Well, now it's gone. And what I'm expecting is I should not have connection to this machine if it was not a redundancy based solution. But right now, obviously, what we are supposed to expect is that that this connectivity should not be there. We are still supposed to be connected. Well, I see that if I refresh here, there's a refresh going on here, and it's going to be going through a bit of freeze here. And even if it could give an error, if we connect again, well, yes, it was frozen for a little second, a few seconds here, and then it's just still connected. But the one that it was connected from is gone, so obviously that's the other one left. And if I go there, so current host has changed from server 4 to server 5. The other, there's a play button here. This means this is the only one that is powered on. The other one does not have a play button, so it is powered off right now, right? It is just off right now. And I'm still connected. If did it, had any disruption on performance, was there any degradation of performance, I'm just going to right click here and go to new database, and go there for your first name db02. And if I go back here, so I just want to check the path out as well. So it's still the F drive, which is okay, the external note, well, that shared disk or LAN. And I'm just going to create another database since I'm connected and I'm working fine. So this is I have full high availability, even though we have lost one physical server or one virtual machine that was part of this. So the service on top simply failed over to the other machine. Now if I take down server 5 as well, so obviously you would know what happened. I'm gonna be totally disconnected, right? So because this is just a SSMS client here, it's remotely connecting to any of the machines here. So, and it says here GB cluster, which we proved that GB cluster is actually here. If I select the cluster name, so this is the GB cluster written here. So obviously the cluster lives here, and to this machine we are connected right now from here. So yes, the redundancy has been achieved, or it works fine. That's the FailoverCluster example lab that you do a crash test actually to prove that FailoverCluster really works. And you can even have this is just the 2 machine cluster. You can have 16 machine cluster, 32 machine cluster as well, and then you have a lot of choices there because you have a lot of active machines there, right? So if it's a huge traffic coming your way, you can distribute that traffic with load balancing as well, while the failover cluster can tolerate the loss of one machine at the same time. Okay guys, so that's going to be our second screenshot. So that failover cluster, SQL failover cluster works. And this screenshot, go ahead and take that screenshot. This screenshot where one machine is actually off and the other machine is actually on, and we're still connected through GB cluster and ENROLL, right? So crashing one server really does not change the services, and the users or applications are still working on it, and this is also called high availability. So screenshot number 2 would be that SQL failover cluster works. Screenshot 2, SQL failover cluster works. So take a screenshot here, screenshot 2, SQL failover cluster works. I'll now take that screenshot. The main thing is the machine is off here and the other is on, and we're still connected with the GB cluster, right? So SQL failover cluster works. That's the name of the second screenshot. Screenshot 2, SQL failover cluster works. Okay, so it's database screenshot 2, SQL failover cluster works. Okay, so that's the failover cluster we configured. It was a big one because we had to configure the whole lab, new lab for that. But you have to start from scratch when you're planning to deploy any critical service on top of failover cluster. So your failover cluster has to be excellent, and then you can go ahead with configuring anything else. So I'm just going to go back here and power on that machine because the purpose of this is achieved. That failover cluster really works, and you crash one machine and it's okay. So Khalid says here, where is your first name DB02 hosted from? So it is hosted from the surviving cluster. So the RAM is being used for this one, and it's hosted on the failover storage, which is F drive. It is hosted here. So, and this F drive is actually mapped from server 1. We created a software SAN here, right? So but it is mapped over the network. So in a production environment, obviously it will be different. These are the drives that we created locally. In production environment, you will have not server 1 as a SAN. You will have a separate SAN somewhere else, in fact off-site. It will not even be in your branch, it will be outside of your branch, and all the data will be saved there securely, and that's where your disks or databases will be hosted on. Right now my two databases are hosted on the shared disk here, and that shared disk is mapped from a software SAN. Because of the limitation of machines, I had to create it here. Otherwise I would have created a fourth machine and I would have created here the software SAN, and yes, then it's a totally separate storage where your database is living, and then it can be loaded from this machine or that machine. So F drive is actually the shared drive. So you know the cluster disk, and this is the F written here. So this is a cluster disk or LUN, logical unit number, or shared disk over the network. So there's a F drive. If I click the other one, cluster disk 3, you can see that it's LUN 1E, and if I go for disk 2, it's LUN 2F. And this is not a data drive because this is disk witness in quorum. We talked about that before. This is the reason that the failover actually happened smoothly. If this is not there, then first machine being an active server crashed and it would never fail over, and your database connectivity would have been gone here. We would not still be connected even after the crash if this disk witness quorum was not there. This told the second server, hey, you're it now, the first one is gone, I'm telling you now, you're it, okay, you're active. So it told the second the standby machine, and the standby machine took over, and this SSMS is being run from the server 5's memory, while its databases are living on the software SAN here on the cluster disks. So, and these cluster disks are mapped from server 1 to server 5. So over the network normally it is. So if I just show that here, so the server crashed, and then the connectivity from here went to FailoverCluster, and now it knew that okay, so 4 is down, I need to connect everyone to 5. So it transferred my connection from server 4 at once without disconnecting. Just a freezing happened for a few seconds. It redirected my connection to server 5 quickly, and it let me access the LAN that is connected to this server 5 as well, and from there it just connected me again to this database that I was connected to, and then I created from here another database as well, right? So this LAN is attached to this one as well. That's why I was the only thing that transferred was my connectivity and the access to these LANs. My connectivity was transferred to server 5, and access to these LANs were given to server 5 right away in seconds, in few seconds. Okay guys, so this is the failover cluster, and the two screenshots we took were the final two for the failover cluster lab. And so, well, that's the purpose of the whole set of labs there, that we wanted to do a crash test at the end, and then see that if the services are still running or not. Okay. Annotate means draw on the screen. Okay. Okay guys, so let's go for the next topic, and then I'm just gonna minimize this, and well, since we have the SQL server here, so I'll just start this or log into this as well, and let's go for some more topics and cover them as well. Okay, so 4 is back, and if I go for the nodes, it detects that the 4 is back, and that's the first thing. And if I go to cluster, so it did not fail back now, it's just active. It's not like the active was 4 before. When it's back, it's gonna fail back, although you can make that happen as well. You can manually fail back as well. So if I open the FailoverCluster manager now, it should also be updated to that the current active host is now 5, machine 5. yes, it is updated here. Current active host is machine 5, and machine 5 also says the current active host is machine 5. Okay, so let's go to the next one, and the next one is the logins. So SQL Server login, server roles, and security of the SQL Server. So that does not require actually two machines. Any one SQL Server, wherever it is working, you can just do that there as well, as long as you're able to successfully connect to that SQL Server. So so Amir says, is there a protocol that makes the preferable server active when it becomes available again? So it's just working over the TCP/IP network, TCP/IP protocol. There is no specific protocol for that, but there is iSCSI storage protocol that is just providing the storage. Overall, its failover clustering feature is providing that services over the network. So RPC connection and TCP/IP is the one. There is no specific protocol for that, other than that storage of it is using its iSCSI protocol, and over the network transfer is using the TCP/IP protocol to transfer the services. Okay, so but do try this at home, guys. It is complicated, but the companies will pay you for the complicated configurations. Easy stuff everyone knows, right? So if you know that you can confidently talk about this in an interview, then you're gonna be impressing the interviewers. So do practice this successfully till the end. Troubleshoot it as much and clarify your concepts about this. The failover clustering. Okay, so here SQL Server logins, server roles, server and security here, and that's where the logins are the credentials in which credentials that authenticate connections to an instance. So obviously we were able to connect to SQL Server from which account? From now I have the SSMS here, which is remotely connected. So from which account I was able to log in? From your first name SQL admin, right? So this account I was able to log in, and so I must have given access to that account. So when the SQL was getting logged in, or when the SQL was getting installed, at that time we had to define some account there, that hey, this account of Windows Active Directory will have full access inside SQL Server as well. So we must have defined it somewhere. Obviously during the installation we defined that. So where does that account exist once the SQL Server is actually installed fully and you're connected from this account? It's actually showing this account as well, right? So it is showing that you're connected from here. And if I go, there's databases there, then there is security here as well. If I just collapse that databases area, so in the security, when you expand, there is logins, there's server roles, credentials, cryptographic providers, audits, and server audit specifications. So there is logins, and if you expand that, so one of the users is our user, and one of the domains is our domain here, and there is another account here, system admin, which is purely SQL Server user account, but it is disabled because this is having all the permission. It's like a root in Linux, the top user, or administrator in Windows, the top user there, having all the privileges to do anything. So this is SA, or system admin, that is the top user here in SQL Server. In VMware vCenter application, you have administrator again there, the top user, having all the privileges to do anything, right? So all software have their top users. So SQL Server has system admin, or SA, as the top user, which is by default disabled, but you can always enable it and log in from it, this user here. And we understand that, okay, so this is a Windows user that is already added here. How about if I want to add another user here? And first of all, the user that is already added, what are the permissions it has? If I right click on this user and go to the properties here of this user, where under the logins, under the security here, and if I go to the properties, So it says general, and that is login name. It also says that it's a Windows authentication, but you do see there's another option called SQL Server authentication. Suppose it's not a user of Windows environment that you want to log in from. You purely want to log in from a SQL Server created user that is created inside SQL Server, and you can do that too. We're going to do that, but right now let's understand the already created user here. This is just giving us information here. Then there's the server roles under the general, right? So that user with which we install the SQL Server, and this user has all the permissions to do anything inside the SQL Server. It was allowed to do. So what kind of permissions it has? It has a sysadmin role here, right? Sysadmin role, it has the public role here, but there are many other roles that we're going to be discussing that are in SQL Server. But by default, it gets sysadmin is obviously the top role here, and it has that. That's why we're able to do anything. And user mapping, if we go there, so which databases it's supposed to make any changes, and on any database, this is just saying database role membership for your first name DB01. So this DB01 has it has also many roles. So there's a SQL Server level roles here, and then there's a database level roles here, right? So on the database, it is DB01 selected there. If I select DB02 like this, so it's going to say on the DB02 also this user has public as well as DB owner role. So it's the owner of the database, again the top role with a lot of permissions inside to do anything for that particular database. So this user's mapping is saying that which database it has a lot of permissions to do anything it wants. Others are obviously the default system databases there, and then there are securables, and this is just we're going to be discussing that. It's an upcoming topic, but it also tells you, it gives you some very granular permission or very detailed in-depth permissions, or just specific, not in-depth but specific permission. Oh, I just want that person to connect and read everything and not change anything. So suppose you want to go for that. So all kinds of permissions there. And then there's status here, and the status says here grant or deny permission to this user account to this database. You can deny permission as well, and permission to connect to database engine is grant deny, and then there's a login to the SQL Server. So these are both separate. So you can see that there are logins here, and then with whatever privileges you have, there's a user created there. There are some local users also created there, which are service accounts, and service accounts normally are those accounts which the application uses the service accounts to connect to other components, other applications, or Active Directory over the network, and it needs a user account to let them connect to other applications or other components or to Active Directory. So this one user which is already created, its properties are these. Now suppose there's another admin that arrived in your company, and the boss says, okay, this is your junior admin, and he or she will be connecting to your SQL servers as well. So can you please create an Active Directory account for that user and add that user here in this SQL server. So now the SQL server is installed already, and how do you add that or another user, and what are the permissions you give there? So we're going to go for that now, that how to add another user. So if we go for SQL roles, we're going to talk about that as well. But if I go for some of the configurations or what we need to test there one by one. Oh, okay, that keeps on going. I had put the word lab there. So normally what we need to do is that we're going to first try to create an Active Directory user, like how to give permission to Active Directory user in SQL Server, and then how to give permission to an Active Directory group in SQL Server. And then how to give permission to local, okay, there it is. So in fact, there it is. how to add a Windows Active Directory user to SQL Server, how to add a Windows Active Directory security group to SQL Server, how to add a local Windows user. So suppose this is server 4 and you created a local user in server 4 that is just on server 4 Windows server machine, right? So how to add that into SQL Server, and then how to create a SQL user, right? So that's not add, how to create a user within SQL Server with SQL authentication. So okay, what about these? Aren't they having SQL authentication? So these are Windows Active Directory users or just Windows machine users. What they are getting authentication is Windows plus SQL authentication. Actually, by default, they are configured with only Windows authentication. By default, that okay, only Windows users, those users which are connected to Windows Server locally or Windows Active Directory, Microsoft Active Directory, if the user is coming from there, yes, let them connect to SQL Server if you properly add them, right? So right now is configured Windows authentication, but there is another type of authentication that we can configure, and that is Windows and SQL Server authentication. So Windows and SQL authentication. So that is the other type of authentication that we need to enable for those user account that you create inside the SQL Server, and they have nothing to do with Windows. They are totally created inside the SQL Server, and then you then log in from those user accounts as well. So how do you log in? We're going to check out that. So first of all, we're going to test the Windows authentication. In fact, let me just show you where exactly that is in your SQL Server. If I go back to the SQL Server here, so you can see that on the server level now, actually I'm doing all this on failover clustered environment. So if I go to server level and then I go to properties here, so even if you have a single SQL Server, you can just follow this by going to properties, and in the properties, if I go to security, right? So properties of the server itself, the instance, in fact it's going to be an instance itself, right? And then you can see in the security that Windows authentication mode, or you want SQL Server and Windows authentication mode. So that should be then clear that you can go for SQL Server and Windows authentication mode, which means that okay, Windows authentication or Windows users will be allowed, but if you create a SQL user inside SQL Server, that will be allowed too, right? So we have put that Windows authentication. This is by default. We didn't put that. This is by default Windows authentication mode. So if I just cancel out from here, because later when we create a SQL user, we're gonna have to switch to this one. And once you switch to this one, you have to restart that server. Ouch. In my case, it's a bigger environment. Okay. You know what? This also has a single server 2 here as well, which is not part of the Failover cluster. If the Failover cluster environment gives me an issue, so if I just put that here, and so 2 and 3 are also there, but 2 is also having 8 GB, while 4 and 5 also have 8 GB, and this is 2 GB. 16, 17, 24 GB, 25, 6. So it's going to be a lot of GBs, and it's not gonna let me change the RAM here because it's suspended right now. Anyway, I'll just power it off from suspension, which is definitely not recommended. Just to save time, I'll just give it 4 GB RAM here, so I could not be over committing the RAM. I'll just start this server 2 as well. This is a single SQL server. Those are clustered SQL servers now. So, well, if I go back here, what I was saying, that how to create or how to add another Active Directory user. So I'm going to check that what users I have in Active Directory. This is Active Directory open already. I'll just go to the server manager. I'll go to tools and open. Active Directory users and computers. And I'll check it out if I created the Exchange users, so 390 users there. I did not. So I'm going to go ahead and create multiple users. I actually already have your first name 012. I'll just create one more here. New user and your first name 03. I already have 12, that's why 3. Control A, Control C. I'll put it on logon name as well. And next. Let me see, conversation 1, 2, 3, conversation 1, 2, 3, and then conversation 1, 2, 3, conversation 1, 2, 3. I don't want the password to be changed at next login. Click next and finish. So I'll go for domain and refresh this. Okay, so I have actually 3 users here. These are end users. They don't have special permissions on Windows environment. But suppose one of them is a new junior SQL admin, or you're the senior SQL admin there, and you need to create his or her account there. So now this is a Windows user, but needs to be added to SQL with proper permissions. So I'll just go to the SQL server, which is actually remotely opened here. So we're remotely connected to whichever is the active machine right now. Right now we know that on the cluster it is server 5. Yes, 5 is the active machine, and both agree to that. Yes, it's 5. Okay, so now I'll just need to add that. So how do I add your first name 01 user or 2 or 3, whichever? So I'll just go for 1. So for that I need to go to the logins here, and I'm going to right click on the logins and click that new login here. And in the new login, so there's that Windows authentication purely that I'm putting. So I need to click the search button because I need to mention that it's actually a Windows user and we need to get it from the Active Directory. So I'm just going to click the search, and it detects that GB cluster here from this location. Well, in the cluster, normally I'll change the location to Active Directory, right? Location, and there's a entire directory written here. So this is your Active Directory with all the SQL domain here and all the folders here, right? So if you just click on entire directory, that's good enough, or you can select the domain as well, or just select the users where actually the user is living right now, whichever. So I'm going to press OK here to change the location to entire directory, and then the user 1. So I'm just going to type your first name here because they all start with this, and I'm going to click the check name. So if I was doing that on server 2, then server 2 must be obviously connected to Active Directory and communication should be okay. I'm going to click the check name here. Yes, there are 2 users here. I did create a third one. It's not showing. I don't know why, but or maybe I just put the MIR instead of ER. So I'll just go for user 1 here, double click that, it detects that, I'm going to press OK. So from Active Directory, I'm just searching a user to be created inside SQL Server. Now, okay, I say that this is a user that I want to be added inside SQL Server. So what kind of permissions you want to give to this user? So then you can go to the server roles here, and in the server role, remember that we did go to the properties of the actual admin user, Windows user, but in SQL all the highest roles were given to that user. So it depends on what you want the user to be doing. Do you want the user to be creating databases there, DB creator, disk admin, handling the storage of the databases, bulk admin, doing a lot of tasks, big tasks together, creating a lot of databases, creating a lot of tables, or connecting to a lot of machines, bulk, right? Process admin, handling only the processes but cannot create databases and cannot do anything else if you just choose that. Security admin, we're going to talk about all that actually, the server roles, that's a separate slide with details of all the roles coming. But right now, how about we can also give this guy full system admin. So this is going to be server level role, on the server level, full instance. Suppose you had 2 or 3 instances on this same server, so all instances this is the system admin for all those, right? And then there is user mapping. Hey, do you want to give this guy or this person access to the databases as well? So if I select the DB01 here, then it shows here the database role membership for DB01, and there, do you want this user to do anything with the database, hence DB owner? Otherwise, again, the backup operator just taking backups of the databases, access admin here as well, so it can that person can access. And then there is deny data writer, deny data reader, those roles where he or she can deny others access to anything. Security admin of that database, DDL admin for binary files there. So all these roles are there. I'm giving it DB owner as well. And then securables, again, if you want to go in depth with some of the permissions there, or again, it's not in depth, it's specific or particular permissions are called securables. And then status, yes, grant access, grant permission to connect to database engine, and let that person log in as well. So we're creating this user here, and with Windows authentication and server roles and user mapping we have configured as well. So I'm going to press OK and check if everything is okay, or is there an error. So everything seems to be okay. O-N-K. Right. Okay, time to sit. I was standing. I'm just putting my table down. Okay, so here it's the user is added, and with all the same roles that the SQL admin had, now this user also has those roles, right? But I have to log out and log in from this user, right? And then connect to this cluster. But first of all, if so suppose I disconnect from this evolve GB cluster evolve now, I'll go ahead and disconnect and try to connect from this user SQL domain / your first name 01. So I'll disconnect from here. So then I'll try to connect again from SSMS to this database. So GB wall is there, but I cannot actually change the username. And why is that? Because I'm not logged in from this machine from that username, right? So that's why I cannot actually change the username here with Windows authentication and log in. I have to sign out from your first name SQL admin and sign in from your first name 01. So this is how it works with the Active Directory user added there, and you have to log in from that user. Now another problem with that user is that this is a domain controller on top of which we're working, right? This is just a domain controller rule, security rule, that any user, Active Directory user that is not an administrator cannot log in from a domain controller. So that's just the rule of thumb for domain controllers for security purpose. So this user that I created has no privileges, is not added to the administrators group. So if I sign out from your first name SQL admin, I won't be able to sign in from your first name 01. That's purely a domain controller thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly open Active Directory and assign this user. Suppose this user is a SQL admin as well as Active Directory admin, right? So I can just add this user to an administrators group. Why? Because I need to log out from the other user and log in from this user, and I cannot log in from this user if it's not an administrator in Active Directory. Otherwise, I don't have to add it as an administrator. I can log in from another server as well, which is member server. Member server and user can connect as well. So I'm going to double click that user. This is totally not necessary to give end users the right. I just went to member of. Domain users is just end users, no privileges other than log into the domain machines, domain join machines. I'm going to go to add, and I'll just add this guy to administrators group, which is just to log out, log in from domain controller. I'll check name. Yes, it's the administrator's security group here. I'm just going to press OK. So now this user has administrator privileges. This has nothing to do with letting this user log into SQL Server. This is purely domain controller thing that I had to do extra. OK, apply. When you make a change, go to domain and all this, domain name and all this, refresh a couple of million times. Now I'm just gonna sign out from this user because I need to sign in from the other user into GB cluster eval. I could have done it on member server as well. Should have actually. Oh, update and shutdown now. Sign out. I just need that user to be successfully logging into the SQL server, right? So sign out. And okay, I don't need to log in from this user, so I'll just go for the other user. If you haven't added that user to the administrators group and you want to log in with this user, then you won't be able to log in. It's going to give you an error because it's domain control security for end users or non-privileged users. Okay, right now it's able to log in. Just for that logging in, I had to add it to the administrators. Nothing to do with giving it access to the SQL server. Okay, so once it is loaded, I'll just open that SSMS again. Management Studio. Okay, so now you can see that this user is automatically detected, and I still cannot use change it to the actual other admin. But where to connect? So it's okay. I'll just straightforward put here GB cluster / the instance name is eval. GB cluster, yeah. Yep, we're connected. So this would, I'm just going to drag this window because then you will see that which user we are connected to from now. And while this is connected, okay, so first of all, this will be screenshot number 3 now. Screenshot 3 here, screenshot 3. Another AD user logged in from SSMS. Another AD user logged in from SSMS is the title. Another AD user logged in from SSMS. So go ahead and take that screenshot here. Take a screenshot here. Screenshot alert. Screenshot alert. Okay. Another AD user logged into SSMS. I'll just take a sample screenshot now. Another AD user logged into SSMS. Screenshot 3. Another AD user logged into SSMS. And database screenshot 3. Another AD user logged into SSMS. Okay, so this is the screenshot. Now, yeah, Khalid, so this is a screenshot. That's where I was. So take a screenshot here. Hopefully we're good. Okay, so this was a screenshot, and if you've taken that, then let's just go ahead. If I try to connect again here, this one, connect Object Explorer. So it just pops up. Still no way to just click that. If I go for options, this options here, I just went for these options, right? And login stays blocked, and okay, so this is I'm just going to cancel out from here, and I'm going to log out from this user and log in from back from the domain administrator as well. Although this is also a domain administrator, but that user is an enterprise administrator, though we don't have to do anything here that requires that kind of high privilege. I'm going to right click here and sign out from this user now and sign in from the actual domain administrator. And 3 buttons here. I'll go for other user and log in again. Your first name, SQL admin. Okay, we're back, and I'll just open that management SQL Server Management Studio. And second thing is that we can even attach a group to this, and then a security group, whoever is a member of the security group can also access this. So first of all, it detects that I am logged, which user I'm logged in from, and yes, this user has full access to SQL Server. I'm just going to connect regularly as I was connecting before as well. So that's one thing. Now I'm going to connect. I'm going to go to the next scenario is this. Okay. So next scenario is how to add a Windows 80 security group. So this is a full security group. Not only that you can add the users here, but you can add a security group here as well to this area, and the same way. But what's the benefit of that? The benefit is that whoever is a member of this security group and whatever permissions you gave to the security group, the members of that security group get those permissions in the SQL Server as well. So it is good for a big environment to create one security group instead of adding one by one individually a user. Suppose there are multiple SQL admins there, so you create a security group, just add security group there, and add and remove users from the security group instead of going inside SQL and adding and removing the users from there. So that's easier, and that is preferred method, and you will see that being implemented more often than actually adding the individuals. Individuals you can add in a smaller environment. In big environments, normally they go for security group. So I'll just go back to the Active Directory. I'm going to create a security group there. Suppose SQL admin group, and then I'm going to add that security group here. And so whoever we added here inside the SQL admin group will get the access, whatever privileges we gave to the security group when we create that inside SQL Server. So first I'm going to go to Active Directory and create a security group. Then I'm going to add it to SQL, and just to show that how it is done, I'm going to go back here, and so I'm inside the server manager here. I'll go to Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers, and then there's a SQL admin. I'll go to the users area here. I need to create a security group. I have some users here. Your first name 030201. So I'll go for new and create a group here, right, inside the users container, and I'll just call it SQL admin group. It's a global security group, and I'm going to press OK. So SQL admin group, and so I'm going to add user 2 here to the SQL admin group. So either you can just go to the user 2, right click and add to a group, or from the security group inside you can add the user. I'm going to go for add it to a group. Which group? SQL admin. I'll type until here and click the check name if it detects that. Yes, it does. So this user is added. The add to group operation was successfully completed, and if I double click and click the members of this group, now your group 02 is added to this group. So all we need to do, so once it is done, I'll go to the domain name and refresh it a few thousand times. Okay, so I just need to add this group to the SQL server, which is a best practice. So since I'm connecting from SSMS from this machine to the SQL servers and the other machines on the Failover cluster, so I'll just go back to the security again on the instance level, and then the logins again, and then I'll right click the login and new login, and then I'll click the search. So once we click the search, so it's saying, hey, within the cluster you have a user. Obviously we know that we need to change the location, and click entire directory and press OK. So the main thing is, does it add groups? So if I go for SQL admin and click check name here, and it says, whoa, it's not a user, so there's no such user with that name. If I go for SQL, so we have to click the object types here as well and check out if the groups were not checked. So yes, they're not checked. I'm going to click the groups here. That please search the groups and let me add the groups as well. Thank you very much. So press OK. Now user, group, both are added. So yes, there is a security group by the name of SQL that starts with SQL. So I'm going to check name here. Now it detects that security group. So all you need to do is go to object types and select that groups object as well. So once the group is, yep. So once the group is added here, I'm just going to press OK here, and so SQL admin group here, and Windows authentication. So well, then whatever roles you want to give to this group, obviously you have to be very careful, because on the Active Directory side you can add and remove users to this, and so I'll just go to the roles, and suppose you go for sysadmin here, and those guys who are sysadmin pretty much has, it covers all the other roles. Suppose you want it to be highest admin, or you can go for any other admins here as well. If I go to user mapping, so which databases you want to give access to this group. So whatever I did before, DB owner, that's the highest access here for the first database and for the second database, right? Okay, so once that is done, so if I go back, this is the SQL admin security group that is being added with the proper permissions as well. So that's going to be screenshot number 4 now. Screenshot 4 is adding AD group to SQL server. Adding AD group to SQL server, right? Adding AD group to SQL server. This is the screenshot. Take a screenshot number 4. Okay, guys, you need to mute your mic because sound's coming from your mic. Okay, so I'm going to take the screenshot number 4 now. Sample screenshot here, adding security adding AD group or AD security group to SQL server. I'll take that sample screenshot. Okay, screenshot 4. Adding AD group. It's normally, it's understood it's a security group, unless we have a distribution group, which we don't add here. It's only security group we can add here to SQL server. Sure. I'll put it here. So this is a screenshot. Base equals screenshot for equals adding AD group in SQL Server. So this is a screenshot, adding AD group to SQL Server, right? So once that security group has been added, so it's ready with all the roles and permissions also given to the security group, and that's the vendor best practice as well. Create a group, and then from Active Directory actually give or take away the SQL permissions or roles. So I'm just going to press OK here to let this group be added. If I press OK, yes, now full security group has been added here in SQL Server in the logins area inside the security on the instance level here. And if I go back here to Azure, not Azure, Active Directory, so here, now this SQL group is this one, and if we double click and go to members, so this member is added. If I remove this member, obviously this member will not have any security privileges on SQL Server because I did not directly add it in that logins area. But any user in Active Directory is added to this group becomes a super admin of SQL Server as well. So from Active Directory you can do that too as well. So domain and refresh. And then the third scenario was that how to add a local Windows user to SQL. This would be the easy one, right? That I would just go to the SQL Server here, and then I would go to logins again here. So instance level, databases and security, then logins. I'll right click the logins, go to the new login again, and I would go for search here. Now I didn't create a local user here. Suppose it's the server 2 based user, and server 2 I haven't even logged in to. Normally it's going to be the local to that machine. So oops, I put a password in place of username. Seriously. Okay, let's try it. Okay, so I'm logged in from the SQL 2 as well, and I can create a local user here. If I go to SQL Server, because it's a member server, it's not a domain controller, right? So if I go to the tools here in SQL Server, which is a member server, not a domain controller, so I can go to here, computer management of server 2, which is just a member server, and then I go to local users and groups. I'm creating a user that's local to this server 2 only. So I'm going to local user groups, then users area, and then creating a new user here. So I can just call it your first name local user 1, and I just named it that way so it would understand as well, and the password. You must change password. Next login, create. So I'll just I've created that user now. Your first name local user, right? That is just local to this server, and it's an end user. I didn't even added it to local administrators. There's a groups here as well. If I go to groups, there are so many groups that are local to just this server. I haven't added that, so it's just an end user, right? But it is in which server? If I go to the server name, it's server 02. So if I go back to the SSMS, because I want to add a local Windows user only, because till now we've been adding Active Directory users, right? So if I go back to this and click the search button again and go to locations, So over the network, actually, I cannot detect the users, and even the computers, it doesn't show that. So this means that this SSMS has to be opened there. Well, I can just go there because I think the SSMS is there already. Yeah, so there's a SQL Server Management Studio here as well. This is a single SQL server, standalone SQL server. Those are the clustered SQL servers. And it says you want to connect. Yes, I want to connect from this locally logged in user to this. It is connected. And if I go to security and logins, expand the logins, and I'll right click here and go to new login. So, and then it's Windows authentication still. I'm going to click the search. So now it says, hey, you want to go for local server, or if I go to locations, it still shows entire Active Directory, but it shows either local or Active Directory. We have already added from Active Directory users and groups. Now we can go local, and locally we created one account. So if I go for your first name here and check name, so there is one user there. Local. I have to put on only, and it is there. Your present name local user 1. Your present name local user 1. Right. And did I refresh? Okay. Your present name local user 1. Does it detect all? Okay. Now it detects. So I'm gonna press OK. So this is, and then you can give the, you get the drill there that that you can create a local user inside that Windows machine and give it full rights on the SQL Server as well if you want, or no rights, just a reader right. Suppose I go for server roles, creator, admin, on the whole. So there's a public already there, but if you go to user mapping and go for all the databases, there are so many databases here. So there is a DB reader, data reader. So there's one data reader here, and then that's it. So it can just read, but it cannot actually do anything else. So suppose you go for limited permissions. So I added that. So this is screenshot number 5. Then adding local user to SQL Server. Screenshot number 5, adding local user to SQL Server. Screenshot 5, adding local user to SQL Server. So let's take screenshot 5, adding local user to SQL Server. Right. I'll put it there. Screenshot 5, adding local user to SQL Server. That I'll show it here. Screenshot 5. And database. Okay, sure. Screenshot 5, adding local user to SQL Server. Alright guys, so if you have taken the screenshot here, let's take a break and then come back. So it's break, and class starts 8:20. Oh, okay, sure, Colin. Okay guys, let's take a break. I'll mute and pause. Zooming, and this is the screen. Vincent was asking that. Okay, hopefully you got it. So let's go ahead. Okay. Okay, guys, so let's get going, and we need to create a SQL login as well. So how to create a user with in SQL Server with SQL authentication, Windows and SQL authentication. So now we're creating an account that is not a Windows based account, either local server or Active Directory. It is created directly inside the SQL Server, and so for that we need to make some extra configurations as well. If we so first of the configuration would be that if I go to the SQL Server level here, and on the SQL Server level we need to change the authentication and then restart the SQL Server. So that's the first step. So if I right click, then I go to the properties, and then I will go to the security here, and what I showed before as well, that it has to be, so it was before here, you know, when I was showing you back here in this SSMS which was connecting to the failover clustered SQL servers. So this is you know what it was here, and then after that, once you change it to SQL Server and Windows authentication, then you can just press OK here after changing it from in the security server to and then you have to restart. So I'm just going to press OK here, and I'll just go ahead and restart, although it was already there. I'm just showing you the whole process. So if you don't restart after that, then it's not going to work, or the SQL directly in the SQL created user will not be able to log in if you don't do a restart after changing it from Windows authentication to SQL and Windows authentication. So I'll just put these, well, I'll just log it again, and then so the first thing is that we had to just simply restart after changing the authentication method. Second thing is that then we can go ahead and create the new login for just the SQL Server user, and we can give we can attach it to map it to any user. We want to give it instance level permissions or not, so it's up to you. I'll just go to the SSMS again in that standalone SQL Server. We can do that in FailoverCluster based SQL Server as well. I'll just directly connect to this. So I'll go directly to the security again. After I'm just going to double check that again by right clicking here and go to properties, and go to security here, and yes, it is SQL Server and Windows authentication mode. And then there is logins here, and in the logins I'm just gonna right click here, and I need to create a SQL user. So I'm gonna do the same thing, right click the login, but I'll not create a Windows authentication user. Now I'm gonna go for SQL Server authentication user. I still have to give a login name here. So if I go for your first name, SQL user 1, your first name SQL user 1, and then I'll just put that password. So let me see, it's the class password I'll just put there. And if I go to the left side, then all the other properties that we have already seen when you're creating a new login here but this is a SQL login now. So if I go for server roles, so there's that public, and then there's sysadmin. Suppose you want to give any other role or sysadmin. I'll just go for sysadmin and user mapping. So suppose I select all the databases here and give owner, but right now the owner is ownership is given to only the DB04. If I select DB02, it does not have the owner. Just selecting all does not make it an owner for all. You have to one by one go to each and select that owner, and you don't have to give it this user or any newly added user ownership to all databases. Whichever database you want to give ownership, just select that. So I have selected the ownership or DB owner status for all these databases, and for this SQL user, securables again start showing right now, and status is yes, granting the permission to connect to database engine and enabling the login. So we're still selecting that, and I'll just press OK now. So once this SQL user 1 is created there, I'm going to go to the Connect Object Explorer here, and so you can see that this is Windows authentication, right? So if I change it to SQL Server authentication instead of Windows authentication, so SQL Server authentication, once you select that, now it does ask, it does let you put a username and any password. So I'm just gonna put that username that I added. It's your first name, SQL user 1, and then the password. So SQL Server authentication, and this is the username as well. And then it's saying that, oh, you're connecting there. Well, I did create a user and I forgot to actually uncheck that that when it's the first login within the SQL, this user should change its password. So I will have to change the password now. And press OK. So yes, I'm able to then log in from the SQL user, but you have to know the prerequisites there, that you have to select on the server or instance level, you have to select the authentication, and then you can connect to the SQL user as well. So this would be our screenshot number 6, that SQL user logged in. So the title can be SQL user logged in. Screenshot number 6 here. Screenshot number 6. SQL user logged in. Screenshot number 6. SQL user logged in, right? So I'm just gonna take that sample screenshot here. So SQL user logged in. So I'll go for screenshot 6, SQL user logged in. You know what, just for explanation, I'll add that logged in with the SQL authentication. If you've just created SQL user logged in, that's also okay. I just add it for clarification. It's with SQL authentication. That's the main thing there. So I'll just put that back to, this is the screenshot that we took. Screenshot 6, SQL user logged in from SQL authentication. So SQL is logged in from SQL authentication, and this, hopefully everyone has taken the screenshot with their name in the background. And then I'll just will just continue with the rest of the topics there. So that was just the SQL authentication, and about the login details that we already talked about as well. There are you can differentiate SQL Server logins based on the type of authentication method used. SQL Server 2014 and onward supports the following login types: Windows authentication login. We talked about already Windows authentication login, then SQL Server authenticated login. We just tried that too. Then there is also a certificate-based login and asymmetric key or PKI, public key infrastructure login as well. And as security principle, must have the alter any login permission to be able to create SQL logins. So you can go with query-based creation of the accounts, or you can create the way we created now. This is also applying to 2016 and 2017. Okay, so if we go ahead, the default authentication method for a new login is always Windows authentication. So Windows authentication is the default authentication method, right? And we checked it already. If you want to add a login with Windows authentication, you need to type the name of your Windows user. Now this is what we have done already, and if I go ahead with this, if you select deny server access, a command to deny access to SQL Server is issued immediately after the login is created. For example, deny connect SQL to and this user here, right? So, and this deny can be, if we go to the user here, suppose that's a SQL user. It's not suppose, this is the user. I'm going to right click here and go to properties, and then the status, and I can go for deny here. So permission to connect to database engine, deny, right? And then so basically that user will not be able to even connect, and then login as well you can disable. So this is what we can do from here, or give the command for that as well. So there's a new query written here. In the new query, which opens here, so the query that can be typed is deny connect SQL to, and then the name of the user. So if I control C this and control V here, which is not taking, so I'll just go ahead and copy, paste, and just simply put the bracket back. Well, obviously this is not the server name or the domain name here, and the domain name is SQL domain. So if I change that to SQL domain, and then there is no such user here, but I do have 03 user there. So if I had put that, well, I haven't even added that user there, so it has to be some user that is already added, right? So I have that user, your first name 01 here, and then either you select that line and then execute, or if it's just one line, you can execute there as well. So cannot find the login this. Oh, the spellings are wrong, so I'll just go for this and execute. Now it executed. So this user has been taken away the login permission. If I just right click and properties here and go to the status here, so now it's deny. That you can do from query as well. So that is what it's saying here. This option can be useful for staging new logins and waiting until all the appropriate security has been applied prior to allowing the login to access your SQL Server instance. So you can just deny first and then check all the security of this user, proper permissions and privileges given to that user, and then just grant the permission, right? So after you complete the security setup server for the login, you can select the login property, then choose the grant server access option. So there is deny connect SQL to, and then there is either allow or grant. So if I go for the grant here, is that something that it's gonna take? If I just, yes, it takes that. And if I right click here and go to properties and status here, so it is back to grant. So it's a grant or deny that you can go for to give access through query or by GUI, you know already. And then there is Windows Authentication SQL Server logins. We have already actually done that. You can map a Windows Authenticated SQL Server login to a local user account. Yes, we did that too. Local security group. We went for Active Directory security group, and a domain user account and a domain security group. That's what we went for. So yes, we have already done that. Yes, we can do that. Then we did the lab here as well. There is well, that's a task normally I used to give when the whole class was sitting in front of the desktops, and they would have to do that in 10-15 minutes. So other than that, Windows authenticated user, to create login for, suppose server 1 John. So there is that a query for that too, that if you want to connect a locally added user, locally created user. So I did create that and connect it from there, but this is the query for that user as well. And if you to create a SQL Server login using the local security group, group 1 on the SQL Server A. So suppose you want to create a local security group and add it there. Actually, you want to add the local security group. This is not an Active Directory security group. So then this is the main query for that, to create a SQL Server login using the domain account, account 2 from the domain. So domain contoso, use the following. So this is the full line. It shows like this, and this is the statement, and this is the query, and this is the query. So it's just saying that either you want to create a local user or you want to go for domain-based user. So that's just a server name or domain name. We did that already. And to create a SQL Server login, we did that too. So create login, and that's just simple create login, but it's actually the domain based, from the domain contoso. So it is still a domain based. So all the queries are showing here. SQL Server authentication logins here, we went for that too. SQL Server authenticated logins are authenticated by the database engine instance rather than through the host operating system or a domain controller. So what authenticates are authenticated by database engine instance. So when we created the SQL Server local SQL Server login, so what authenticates? It's the database engine that authenticates the user. Sorry. So that's just one way to really. We have tried the Windows way and the SQL already, so I'm just going to go ahead. And to create a SQL Server authenticated login by using the Management Studio, yeah, that's what we did. We went to security, everything, and you can create SQL Server authenticated using create login statement and with password option. So for the query, yes, that's what we did. And I'm just going through the slide, but we have done all this already. And certification authentication. So this is what we haven't done. And normally you have to have a certificate authority or CA, which can be local certificate authority or your public certificate authority. So local certificate authority is you can just create a ADCS, which is a role in Windows Server 20 2008, 2012, 2016, 2019 as well. So that is called ADCS, Active Directory Certificate Services. And from there, you can create a certificate that can be, then later added here. If you want to know how to create that ADCS and install in a forest, then let me know on WhatsApp. Now here, suppose you have a branch here, and that branch has the domain controller. The first one would be the domain controller here, and second one would be, so this is the DC, and this would be the ADCS, right? Active Directory Certificate Services. And this is the Tor branch. So there's a DC and there's an ADCS, Active Directory Certificate Services. Now this is the local CA or certificate authority, right? So certificate authority. But when we say certificate authority or security certificate, so what does it really do? So that is that security certificate is a small file that has encoded, or we can say hard coded into it your user or your server information, server info, security info, SID, security identifier, and the certificate chain info. So certificate chain just means that where did you get this certificate from? Did you create it from your local ADCS or Active Directory Certificate Services, or did you purchase it from GoDaddy.com website, or did you purchase it from Verisign.com, or did you purchase it from that digicert.com? So these are some of the famous sites there where you can purchase the security certificates, but it tells you then the whole information. And what it does, it really do, security certificate helps give or offers authentication and encryption, right? So security certificate offers authentication and encryption. Now this is where it's saying that, hey, did you got the certificate from your locally installed role of Active Directory Certificate Services, or did you go for any websites like GoDaddy.com or so public CAs? Those are called, first of all, public CAs or certificate authorities, and they're like GoDaddy.com, or you go for their DigiCert is famous and expensive as well, and many banks have that too. DigiCert, GeoCert is also there, and .com, and then Verisign.com, and there are many others, but these are some of the famous ones. .com. So public CAs, you just purchase a certificate from there in $150 up to $2,000, whatever type of security for 1 year. You can take it, and there are many types of certificates there as well. SAN certificate, subject. Okay, so I forgot the name there, but there are SAN certificates, and then there are other certificates as well, which you can just give the domain name there, and then they are good for you. So if I so what it says here, you can create a certificate to be associated with a login if a database master key is present by using the create certificate statement. So it just says that you want to create a security certificate for authentication instead of the username password. If you have a certificate, then you can also use a certificate. If you have that certificate, it is not provoked, it is not expired, then you can keep on logging with the help of that certificate. And that security certificate just identifies you, your domain name, and your security information in the domain, and then lets you logging in unless the certificate is expired or unless the certificate is revoked. So any of those things there. So I'll just go for 2050 here. Okay. So the thing is that yes, we can use the certificate as well, and then there is asymmetric key authentication. You can also use an asymmetric key to authenticate SQL logins. Unlike certificates, asymmetric keys contain both a public key and a private key. If there is no database master key. Okay, so Amir says one certificate per user. Normally, yes, it is one certificate per user. You can, and it's better to when you have suppose thousands of users, right? So it will be you can use that certificate that I am actually forgetting the name for. There's another type. Yeah, normally you can go for auto enrollment for users and ADCS. Um, yeah, here. So if you have domain controller here and you have like maybe 5,000 users here, so the certificate authority, local certificate authority can create as many certificate, but yes, it will be certificate per user, but you can create as many certificates here. But when suppose the company says no, I want public CAs there, public certificate authorities are normally used for when there's a outside traffic connecting to your services, your servers, then you must use public CAs. So for your Exchange server and for your other servers, it's an outside traffic that needs to be connected, and it needs to be connected. So if it is an inside traffic, you can go for local Active Directory certificate services. But yes, it's going to be, and here you can create with this ADCS as many users. It's going to create one certificate per user. And when you're installing ADCS, you can actually give that expiration date as well, and then well, it will expire whatever date you put the expiration on. So yes, per user you need a certificate here to get that. Okay guys, here, so if we go back to asymmetric key authentication, you can also use an asymmetric key to authenticate SQL logins. What is an asymmetric key? What's the main concept behind that? Normally it is also, keys are also certificate based. Unlike certificates, asymmetric keys contain both a public key and a private key. If there is no database master key, you must provide a password when creating an asymmetric key. You create asymmetric keys with the create asymmetric key transact SQL statement. So basically, what is the concept behind this public key and private key that you will actually see in many of the other, wherever you mention the word certificate, you will see that there's a public key and private key being mentioned there. So normally what happens is that you have just a basic example of that would be that suppose there's an Active Directory server here in your organization, and that is domain controller, and then you have that server here which is ADCS, Active Directory Certificate Services. Now what happens is that you have a lot of users here, maybe hundreds of users there, right? And there's a user here, Bob, and there is a user here, Jane, and they are both Active Directory users. So what happens is that if the certificate is provided, there's a concept called PKI, or which is public key infrastructure. And public key infrastructure just has a concept of that once a user certificate is deployed to the user is given a certificate that is that has a public key and a private key, public key and a private key, right? So what's with that private key and public key? So the user has okay, I'll just put that the user has a public key and private key. So what's the story with that? Now if Jane wants to send a message to Bob, so Jane is sending a message, and or email message. That email message has to be encrypted in such a way that only Bob can see that email message. If that email message somehow ends up somewhere else, that person cannot decrypt it. So the email message is meant for Bob, right? So how is it possible that it could be secured and only Bob can see that? So what happens is that Jane accesses from Active Directory Certificate Services the public key of Bob from Bob's certificate. Now, Active Directory Certificate Services provided certificate to Bob and provided certificate to Jane and to all other hundreds of users. So this means it has the copy of that, or it has the information of those certificates. So Jane just grabs or requests the public key of Bob's certificate. Jane requests public key of Bob's certificate. So what does that mean? Public key, only purpose of public key is to encrypt, right? So that's another statement here. What is public key and private key really doing there? So public, we need to understand that thing. Public key only encrypts. Once it is encrypted, or we can say locked, then only that user's private key can decrypt. So private key only decrypts or opens the text. That's first thing. Second thing we need to understand with PKI is that public key is available for any user to use, and private key that does decryption or open the text to make it readable. So private key is only with the certificate owner. So if Jane uses Bob's public key, so Jane requests Active Directory, hey, can you just give me the public key from Bob's certificate? ADCS says yes, I have a copy of that, so I gave that certificate to Bob as well. So only I and Bob has that copy. So Jane says, okay, can you give me the public key? So I'm sending an email, so that email will be encrypted. So that email gets encrypted with only Bob's certificate's public key, right? So now since only Bob's certificate's public key was used, so now Jane sends that email, so that the private key is only with Bob. So Bob was assigned that certificate. Bob logs in from username password of Active Directory, and the certificate will be there locally saved in the certificate repository. And when Bob opens the email, the private key of Bob's certificate is used too. So private key that only Bob has of Bob's certificate is used to decrypt Jane's email, right? So the concept of PKI or public key infrastructure is that it is more secure. First of all, that public key of any user is available, and any user can use any other user's public key, but that only locks or encrypts the data. That same public key cannot be used to decrypt the data. It only uses to encrypt the data. Once encrypted, only that user for whom whose public key was used, only that user's private key can decrypt it. No one else can decrypt that. Suppose this email was actually sent to another guy there, and so suppose it was sent to Jack, and that email was wrongly sent to Jack as well. But since Jack's public key was not used to encrypt it, Jack's private key cannot decrypt that email. So whoever's public key, whichever user's certificate's public key was used, only that user's private key can and decrypted, and that user has that certificate and private key only is with that user. No one else can have that unless a hacker hacked that user's username, password of Active Directory. So this is public key infrastructure, and there are symmetric keys and asymmetric keys there as well. With the symmetric keys, there is so the difference between symmetric key is that there is only one password. Symmetric key, there is only one password that both parties need to know to encrypt and decrypt the data, while asymmetric keys are having public key and private key, public key and private key mechanism in place. So the more secure is asymmetric keys, where you have just the public keys available for any user to only encrypt, and when it is sent to the actual user, and that user's only private key can decrypt it. So while symmetric key is that suppose Jane password protected this email, so Jane has to somehow tell Bob, hey Bob, if you want to open that email, then the passphrase is this. So when she's telling that over the phone, over the email, or however, there could be some eavesdroppers who could actually grab that information. So it's not secure if both parties has the same password, but it is secure that one party has just the key to encrypt and the other party has a key only to decrypt. That is always considered then more secure than this is what they're talking about here. If hopefully you understood the PKI infrastructure, how it works. So asymmetric key authentication, you can also use an asymmetric key to authenticate SQL logins. Unlike certificates, asymmetric keys can contain both a public key and a private key. So if there is no database master key, you must provide a password when creating an asymmetric key. So public key and private key, we now know that public key encrypts, private key decrypts. So you create asymmetric keys with the create asymmetric key transact SQL statement as well. So there are ways to create that as well with there's types of certificate I talked about. There's also a type of certificate called self-signed certificate. So there are ADCS credit certificates, there are public CA credit certificates, and then the third type, which is the most insecure, and that is self-signed certificates as well. So the most insecure. So you can just create a self-signed certificate from any command in or in your Windows and in SQL as well. Okay. And public key certificates, or the public CA certificates, and the local ADCS based Active Directory certificate services based certificates are considered more secure. Most secure would be the public CA certificates that you purchase from those websites that I mentioned. Okay, so asymmetric keys, then there are certificate based authentication, there are asymmetric keys based authentication as well, and there's that SQL query there as well that tells that for example, to create an asymmetric key named SQL user 5 by using the RSA 2048 algorithm on a database that has an existing master key, issue the following transaction. So they do give a SQL query there to create an asymmetric key, and 2048 algorithm just means that the key length will be 2048 alphanumeric characters, which are not that easy to crack for the cracking software. And if it's 4000 key characters there, so encryption 4000 key worded alphanumeric characters there, then obviously it will even take longer time for the hackers to, or crackers to, crack that key to get the data. Okay, so altering existing logins, and that is all about if you want to change any of the settings through the command through the queries that you're altering, changing any of the configurations of your logins that you've created or the user accounts that you have created there, right? So in that case, you can alter existing logins using SQL Server Management Studio to edit the properties of the login. Now this is what we have done already, and that just shows here that I can just go to properties and simply alter any of this information, change any of these information here, right? So they just show that there's a SQL queries there for this purpose as well. You can disable a login by using disable keyword, or enable a disable login by using enable keyword. So we have already checked it out. In fact, this is alter. So alter login SQL user a disable. So that is for the SQL user. You can just use this query here to simply change its login to disable. Where it really implements, if I just go to the SQL user here, properties and status, we've gone through there as well. So it's pretty much that query will go to this login and will disable this, right? So this is what we can do from SQL queries as well. And removing logins, this is also a query there that you can remove logins with the help of drop login, right? So either we can just remove, right click and delete, or you can actually go for drop login there as well. So this would be the drop login statement. And denying server access, so this is deny connect. So you want to deny connect. This is again that status area where you want to deny. So we can alter the configurations, we can remove the login fully, and then we can deny server access. We did already actually, and it is just showing, that picture is just showing exactly the same thing. And deny connect or grant connect, I already showed you by running the queries as well, right? Okay, then there are server roles here. That's also important. That server roles enable you to simplify the assignment of permissions at the database instance level. So server roles enable you to simplify the assignment of permissions at the database instance level. Although it is possible to assign permissions to SQL logins, this can be difficult to manage in all but the smallest environment. So on the SQL login, so user level you can provide all the permissions, but how about on the server roles can provide you on the database level permission. So it's higher level right now. If we go back to this area, so there are server roles here. These are the server roles. So if I expand that, I'll just collapse that logins area. So you can see that there are server roles here. There's a bulk admin, DB creator, disk admin, process admin, public, security admin, server admin, setup admin, and sys admin. So the majority of these are self-explanatory, that DB creator will be doing what? Creating databases, right? And disk admin handling the storage. So process admin, whatever the processes are going on, the privileges are there to stop the processes, restart the processes, so support the database process or any other. So those are the server roles now, and on this level you can change permissions. Although it is possible to assign permissions to SQL logins, yeah, we read that. Permissions are assigned to server roles rather than to individual SQL logins. So better go for on server level and assign those permissions instead of on individual SQL login level. So there are those queries there as well, checking which server role has what type of permission. Suppose I want to know that what kind of I want to give that new junior SQL junior admin the DB creator role, but what exactly will that junior admin be able to do? So if I go for that the query here, so and put that if I just go for, oh, it's just copying the same thing again. I'll have to be quick. I'll just copy this quickly, and it should then let us Okay, there's that DB creator written there, and I'll go for that single commas there. Oops. And so I'll just select that if this query still is yes. So it just shows that what sysadmin or actually DB creator can do, right? So DB creator can add member to DB creator role, alter database, change any settings in the database, create the database, drop a database or delete a database, extend database, restore database from backup, restore log, and as we rename the database. So obviously a DB creator will do anything related to databases. So these are all the roles, and this is one query that really talks about all the roles. Suppose I go for sysadmin. So I'll just try to go for sysadmin here, and then select the query here, and then execute this. So that is what you can do. This is the highest privileged role and server role, and that's why you can see pretty much whatever is there to do in the SQL Server instance. Sysadmin can do pretty much all that. So let's take a screenshot number 7 here, that sysadmin role, server role permissions. So let's take a screenshot number 7, sysadmin server role permissions. Screenshot number 7, sysadmin server role permissions. Screenshot 7, sysadmin server role permissions. So I'm going to take a sample screenshot now. Sysadmin server role permissions. Screenshot 7, sysadmin server role permissions. I'll put it back to, this is a screenshot. So database, screenshot 7, sysadmin server role permissions. So this is the screenshot area here. And hopefully you're taking the screenshot with your names there. Okay, so sysadmin server role permissions, but we get the idea that whatever server role we put there, it's going to just tell us, give us the permission. So if I go for public here and select the whole thing with the key, and the F5 normally is the execute. So okay, so public. So it says completion time and line 10. Okay, so there's a problem here with the public. Yeah, normally the spellings are correct, but yeah. Okay, so we have talked about this, and I'll just go for disk admin then. Hopefully that is okay. Disk admin, and select that and execute. Yes, it shows all that. So other than public, which is kind of less permission or read only, so it's okay with everything else, with all other rules. So okay, so that's one thing, and let's go ahead and we were talking about, so this is how now this is to know how the permissions are really shown there, or what are the permissions there. To grant a set of permissions to a specific SQL login, add the login to a server role, and SQL Server 2014 and onwards as well. This is 2016, 2017 as well, ships with 9 built-in server roles, as you can see right now. And these built-in server roles are fixed, and other than that public role, it is not possible to modify the permissions assigned to these roles. So the main thing here is that you cannot modify the permissions assigned to these roles. Obviously, these are already system created roles, and normally we can't do that also in Active Directory when there's a Active Directory created security groups there with higher privileges. So, well, we cannot change that. And well, we have done that already, which is being asked here, that an Active Directory create a new user called John, and then add that user there, and alter server role, sysadmin, add member, John here, go. So now in SQL Server Management Studio, open a new query and type create login John. So if the John user is in Active Directory, or any other user is in Active Directory, then this SQL set of SQL queries will first add the user, then alter the user's permission to sysadmin, and then well, it will search the user from there, and it will create a login and then actually add the user to the SQL server. So this is what we did step by step, but this is whole query way of doing things. So you can, through query, you can also do this. So here, if we go down here, well, it does, this screenshot just shows that how from the query you can add the user to a login and then give it the sysadmin privileges, which we did step by step as well. And if we go ahead, create a custom server role, so there's a custom server role as well, and create a new server role by typing create server role contractor, alter server role contractor, and then add member John to that. So this is just to create another role and add a member to that, and the whole picture that shows there also. So from the GUI, that's how it looks like. Suppose I go for the server roles here, and new server role is there as well. There's an option there, and new server role, and if I click that new server role here, so there's the owner written there, and the server role and the date is written there. So if I first go for the owner, so it says that, hey, who do you want to be the owner of this role, and it goes to the logins and server roles that who should be there. And if I click the browse button here, so it shows me the logins that are there, and that what we created there as well. There's use your first name 01 and then your first name 02. So if I go for your first name 02 and press OK here, so that's the login that we have added. That okay, let's create this username user as a owner of this role. And securable, so that is something that we need to still discuss, but it goes down to how which particular area or which particular resource that you want to give this user an access to. So suppose I go for, okay, this role will be talking about all the permissions of servers, and I'm just going to expand the screen now, and these are securables, and I'll just expand this one as well. So securables just show you then specific permissions, right? So if I go for a grant, and there's a grant with here as well. Suppose I go for this deny with grant, and there's a grant, right? So and I'll drag this all here. So administer bulk operations, alter any availability group, alter any connection, alter any credential, alter any database, and it goes on and on and on. What kind of, so first I went for new role, and then there are so many specific permissions that you can give there as well. Suppose I granted bulk operations and alter any database, alter any credential and alter any database, right? So suppose you were actually going for that, and then there is servers, and then there are server roles as well. If I go for server roles, that is not show only selected if I go for, or it is just not showing right now server roles. But this means that overall everything in server roles this guy gets to do. So this is in securables, and this is in general, right? So if I go for members, this is just a membership area, and there's an add button here as well. If I go to add button, so who else? So that was your first name 02 was the owner, right? But who are the members here who also get to inherit whatever privileges you're giving to this new role? I'll click the browse button here, go way down to suppose a SQL user that we have. I'll press OK. Now this is not a Windows user, but it's just purely SQL user. And then there's memberships here. So, and in memberships, then you can make this new role having some higher privileges. So whoever is part of this new role as an owner and a member will be having DB creator role, server role, and disk admin server role, and setup admin server role, security admin. Suppose this is what you have selected, or you're thinking of selecting. So how to create a new custom role is what we are doing, where we can add a number of users who will be getting these privileges, and where we also select what kind of specific combination of collection of permissions that we can give to the user. So that would be our screenshot number 8, creating this would be our screenshot number 8, creating a custom role, creating a custom server role, creating a custom server role. That would be our screenshot number 8, creating a custom role, screenshot number 8, creating a custom role. So I'll just go ahead and take a sample screenshot here, creating a custom role, screenshot number 8. Creating a custom role, screenshot number 8. So this is the screenshot area. Database screenshot 8. Creating a custom role. Screenshot 8, creating a custom role. So I'm just going to press OK to this screen, and so this is just the new role, and if I right click here, I can rename it as well. That it's we can say custom role 1. You don't have to take a screenshot of that, just showing, we can just name it anything. Okay, so custom role 1. Anyway, so that's the combination of then roles here as well, and that's a full name showing here, and I did put some permissions here, but will this command actually work for the custom role, or does it only work for the already created system roles? So I can just put it to that command to show its permissions, and yeah, it actually does not show the permissions for a custom role. Or if I refresh here, Well, normally it does only show permissions for the already created. We can say factory default as well, right? So yep. So that's where we were, and we were trying to check it out. Uh, all the roles there, permissions there as well. Now this diagram also actually shows on the SQL Server instance level. And if we go back here, so if I go way up there and right click on the top server 2 and go to properties of that, so then we can see that the permissions are there, and all types of permissions that are showing their agent signing certificate, and then processes logging in, and then so these are the logins and roles, and these are all the permissions that they're showing. So on the server level you can also check it, advanced database settings, and the path there, and connections, what are the connections there to the databases, how many are there, security, we have already gone through that, processors, automatically set processor affinity mask for all processors, memory, you can give actually specific memory, that maximum it should go to that much memory, instead of it's kind of unlimited written here, or too much memory. So you should be giving certain size that maximum it should go for. Suppose you have 128 GB memory, so maximum it can take like 100 GB memory, maximum it can go for. So you can just put any kind of those restrictions there, and the general. So if I'm going to cancel that, but the server roles, we get the idea that you can just give those roles to the databases there, and the 9 fixed server level roles are as follows. Sysadmin role members can perform all activities possible on the database engine instance. You specify initial membership of this role when performing installation of the database engine feature. So sysadmin is the top role there. You can do anything you want, and server admin role members can perform instance-wide configuration tasks. Members of this role can shut down the instance as well. So remember that we created 2 instances. So server admin is instance level. So if you have 2 instances, then for the other instance the server admin will be different. Security admin, assign this role to logins that must be able to manage instance level permissions. So this is the main word there, instance level permissions, because this role can configure permissions at the instance level. Membership in this role allows the animation of privileges on logins. So whatever logins you've created there, we created the Windows logins and SQL logins, right? So privileges on logins and user defined server roles so we created a custom role as well, which is also called user defined server role, to the equivalent of those assigned to the sysadmin fixed server role. So it's just saying that this instance level permissions are done by security admin, whoever is given that privilege. So if we further go ahead, then those other roles that we saw there, so process admin, role members can terminate processes running on a database engine instance, and then so you can just terminate processes on a running database engine instance. Suppose you terminate the database engine process there, all the databases will shut down, right? And setup admin, role members can add linked servers to and remove linked servers from the database engine instance as well. So you can just create, if you have linked the 2 database engines, suppose SQL Server is installed on server 2 and SQL Server is installed on server 3 as well. So if they are linked together, so setup admin can create those links and remove those links as well. Remember that it had to enable the browser service on both SQL servers to connect the 2 SQL servers together. And then there's the bulk admin, assign this role to logins that you want to allow to use the bulk insert statement on databases hosted on instance. So all the bulk tasks or multiple objects are being changed or altered, that kind of task you want to do, or make anyone give the privileges for anyone to do, it will be bulk admin. And disk admin role members can manage instance related files. So disk admin is all about files, folders, and storage related changes on for the database. It can do. We changed the path from C drive to ENF drive, remember? So disk admin can do that. DB creator role members are able to create, alter, drop, and restore databases hosted on the database engine instance. So role members are able to create, alter, drop, and restore. So drop is delete, alter is change, and create or restore databases as well. So DB creator, pretty self-explanatory. Public, all SQL Server logins are members of this role. You can alter the permissions assigned to this role, but you cannot alter the membership of this role. So every user has that public role assigned to it, so you could be still able to at least see or read anything, but other than that, you can alter the permissions assigned to this role, but you cannot alter the membership of the role. So every user connected to SQL is part of the public role there. So you can use the alter server role transact SQL statement to modify the membership of a server role. So if you want to modify the membership of a server role, there is that transact SQL is just that query that we were writing there, and the command that we were writing there. So you use the add member option to add a server, and add member option to add a server principal, and the drop member option to remove a server principal. So it just says that you want to add somebody there. These are the statements there. These are the queries there, the commands there that you can use. Alter service, server role, service admin, add member. So suppose you want to give a user server admin role, and that user belongs to a domain Contoso, and it belongs to actually a group, security group. Remember, we created a security group as well. So this can add or give that role to security group as well. And we did add a security group. For example, to add the Contoso domain group, we log into the server admin, fix server role, execute this statement. Now we do have a security group in fact, and suppose this is a SQL domain, and the security group name we did create SQL admin security group, SQL admin group. Actually, we created that, but I'll just confirm that quickly. SQL admin group. So that was a security group in Active Directory. Although it is added already, it's a SQL admin group. So this is the SQL query that we can run, and the members of this security group will be given server admin server role, and obviously all the members will be having this then if there's no issues running this. So if I go quickly to the SQL query area here and just put this there, so overall SQL domain and SQL admin group. So it does have some issues here. So there's that course here. I need to change the course. Oh, actually that's okay. So one side code was wrong. When I copy paste it, now it changes the code. Okay, so I'll just try to execute, and it still says that because it does not exist or you do not have permission to actually alter this group. Okay, with whichever user I'm trying to do it from, that user, it says, is not having permissions, although I'm trying from the super admin here. Cannot add this server principal SQL main SQL admin group because it does not exist or you do not have permission. So it's not able to actually access that or so that's why it's just giving this now. But this is a query. Obviously we have to then go for the configuration or the troubleshooting of the statement as well, although I've added that group already here, right? So if I want to give this group server admin, so it is we added it in the logins, right? This is the logins area, and this is the name of the group. Yep, that's the name. Your first name SQL admin, or it was SQL admin group. Oh, SQL admin group. So I think I did not add that. Actually I did it. I'm just not able to see this. So it was your first name SQL admin. That was my default name. Okay, so it's not showing here. That's why it's saying that, hey, I cannot find it where it is. So although I remember, oh yeah, I added it here in that other, this one. SQL admin group was added here to this other SQL server, but not this one. Okay, well, this is a query for if you have added it already, and just right click the new login and then simply attach that SQL admin first, and then run this once you've added to the login, as we did before as well. And then there is you can use the following commands, views, and functions to learn more about the properties of specific server roles. So help server role provides a list of fixed server roles, and well, there is that command here, and if I go ahead and I'll just run that query as well. So this is just one single one. Actually it does show right away that, hey, what are you doing? And so it says that what are the fixed roles. So this is a query that says that, hey, these are the fixed roles. We already saw that here. These are the fixed roles there. And then provides fixed server role membership, who are the members of that. So if you run that, so it just shows you so the membership. Now it gives you more details of sysadmin. Actually, so many you people are all sysadmin. It's a party here, and with that custom role, these were the roles given there. So it just shows all that, and member SID as well, security identifier for each member that comes from Active Directory or from SQL Server. So it gives more information, and then this is provides fixed server role permission. So I think this we already saw how it works. So if I just copy this and execute, so it then goes ahead with DB creator does this, and disk admin does this. So this is pretty much all the roles and their permissions. So security admin does this. So the longest one would be sysadmin. That starts from here, and it goes on and on and on. So we know that how to see just the one specific role's permissions, and this is pretty much all the roles that they have and their permissions. So this command does that. So interesting, and you can get a lot of information this way with queries. And it keeps on going, enables you to check whether a SQL Server login is a member of a specific fixed or user-defined server role. So is server role member, and then there's a system server sys.server role members, and that is provides information about role members displayed as role and member ID. So it goes on, and there are so many commands there. I'll upload the slide and you can just check them out yourself as well. User defined server roles, we have already created the custom roles there, right? And we did add that role, or we have done that. So these are just screenshots to show how to do that. And then there are database roles as well, and those are on the database level. We were talking about just the server level. Database roles are DB owner, security admin, access admin, backup backup operator admin as well, backup operator DB DDL admin. So where are these? We may have not seen that before. So if I go inside the databases here, and suppose in DB01, and they have then security option here as well, and then there are roles here, right? So, and then there are database roles under the roles, and these are all the roles. So this would be our screenshot number 9, that database roles. So take a screenshot here, screenshot number 9, database roles, screenshot number 9, database roles, screenshot number 9, database roles, right? Take a sample screenshot here. So screenshot 9. So this was a screenshot. Database roles. Okay, so that was a screenshot number 9 here. Database roles. So obviously, just like on the server level, there were roles, server roles. So there's a database level roles as well, and so if we check it out further, so it does mention that what each database roles really do, but some of the obvious ones are there already, but the ones that were not there in the server roles. So DDL admin adding a principal to this role enables him or her to run any data definition language DDL command in the database. Data definition language. Normally, the queries we run are also referred to as this, and there are many other ways to run the queries. So data writer, assign this role when you want to enable the principal to insert, delete, or modify data in a database user's table. Data reader, members of this role can read all data. Okay. And deny data writer, assign this role when you want to block a principal from, principal just means the user, right? And then there is deny data reader. Obviously you want to deny someone, hey, don't even read the data there. So pretty straightforward. And then there's credentials here. So credentials store the authentication information that facilitates a connection to a resource external to the database engine instance. So credentials saves your information for later use wherever you want to use it. So you can map a single credential to multiple SQL logins, but it is also but it is only possible to map a single SQL login to one credential. So the main thing is that the single credential to multiple SQL logins, you can connect that single credential, which has also itself a username password. You can give it to some other users or logins that you have created there as well. And you can also use the create credential transact SQL command. So it's just saving your credentials there. But if we want to look it up there in our roles area in the server roles, so that was the databases here, this is the security here and server roles, and this is the credentials screen as well. So if I right click the credentials and go to new credentials, so this screen just pops up, and it just says here or shows that picture, and so you can just add any user there. Suppose it's a file transfer protocol there, so FTP login, and you want to create that credential that any user wants to use. Suppose they want to do a file transfer, right, with the file transfer protocol. They want that privilege to be able to transfer the files. So you can create that credential for whichever login or username that you've added there. So suppose it's FTP login here, and then identity. Then you have to connect it to certain login here. And if I go for your first name 02, oh, check name, okay, and the password. So you're just creating a certain login. You could have created a, maybe if you had created a FTP username there, and you would have added that FTP file transfer protocol username that you're using as a service account here instead, and then you could have added it. So I'm just going to press OK and FTP login, but we actually gave the path or the login of a Windows user. Normally it can be a service account as well. So that's credentials, and let's take a screenshot number 10 here. Credential created. So let's take a screenshot number 10. Credentials created. Credential created. Sorry. Screenshot number 10. Credential created. Screenshot number 10. Credential created. So screenshot number 10. Credential created. So screenshot 10. Credential created. All right, so well, that's credential, and now after this, so we'll continue with other topics in the next class. So we can just we're gonna go to securitables. We already talked about there. So we're gonna go for audit and others. All securable is an item in SQL Server for which you can assign permissions. Securables can be contained within other securables. The term for these nested hierarchies is scope. And we did add securable, which is just showing you that, okay, whichever entity is having username, password, or some kind of security requirement or security mechanism there. So they're called securable. It could be a server that requires a credential. It could be a login that has a credential and a password, username and password. So they're all considered as securables. So okay, so guys, this is it, and let's upload those screenshots to the Blackboard, and see you in next class. Also, I will be giving just a small project there. It's 13th week, I know, but it's going to be hopefully, well, it's going to be easy for you, and need to mark you for that too. I was thinking of giving normally I always give hands-on, but well, given the circumstances, so I'll just upload a file for the project and I'll let you know as well. And that would be, you will see that it's research based or comparison based, and you just have to fill up all those areas, but I'm not gonna make it long as well. Given the time, I'll just give it a small project to you with some marks there, so you can just try to go ahead and check it out. So okay, Jacob says is exam next week or in 2 weeks? Next week? Wow, somebody else is taking next week, so it's on 15th week, right? So exam final quiz will be on 15th. Okay, so and I'll just put up that comparison or research project, and it's not going to be long, so you should be able to do that. Okay guys, so upload your screenshots and see you next class. Thank you. Bye bye. We can take the exam on week 14 and have class on 15 like midterm. Oh, well, if everyone agrees, you want to not have an exam on the last day and you want to have that a week before. So if everyone agrees, normally I take it on the last day, but it's all depends on if anyone's against it. If any one person is saying no 15, then I go 15. If everyone's saying yes, okay, or it's they don't care, 14 15 doesn't matter. So if everyone agrees on 14th, let me know midterm, and then 15th we can still carry on with the lab. Hey, I need to cover something on 14th and I need to put it in the exam on 15th, right? So that would be, those questions will not be there in the exam that I will cover on 15, but I need to cover everything that we are teaching. So guys, it has to be 15 actually. So yeah, okay guys, so see you next class, and I'll upload a research or comparison project there. You can get some marks from there as well. Okay guys, see you. Bye bye.